Hello and welcome to a new episode of Ghoulish. My name is Max Booth and I am a host. Today on the program I am speaking to Michael David Wilson, whose new novella, The Girl on the Video, is coming out on April 28th, which is this Tuesday. This Tuesday of April 2020. April 28th, 2020. Most of you who are listening to this program probably already know who Michael David Wilson is. He is the founder of the This Is Full website, publication, website. I said website. Podcast. That's the big one, the podcast. So I thought we would I would get him on the show and we would talk about I think the podcast he does. To be honest, we recorded this episode a long time ago. I record these intros before I begin editing the episode, and I don't quite remember what we talked about now. If I had to guess, probably bestiality. Anyway, go pick up Michael's new novella, The Girl on the Video. It's not out yet, but I mean, it's going to be out in a couple days, and if you listen to this episode in the future, hey, it's out now. Go get it from perpetualpublishing.com, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Amazon, your local library, if those have opened back up again. And yeah, let's find out what the hell I talked to Michael David Wilson about, okay? Oh, by the way, before we begin, are you okay if I record this conversation?
Oh shit, you have to record it.
Is that cool with you? Do I have your consent?
I guess. I mean, I didn't realize that for a podcast you had to record it.
Yeah, man. It's 2020.
The way that me and Bob normally do it is we like write down as much as we can, and then Bob just does impressions of people, and then that's how we get it done.
He does a great Michael Caine.
Yeah.
So okay, to begin with.
I didn't even know if we had began.
To begin with.
Okay. In your own time.
Welcome to Ghoulish.
Thank you very much. I mean, I don't know if you're welcoming me or the listeners, but either way, I think we're all feeling pretty good.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Is he on the call?
God damn it, I will do this with a straight fucking tone. Lee.
Hey.
Shut the fuck up. Lee. God damn it. Okay.
I might have to mute my mic. I'm trying really hard to let you say Lee Harvey.
This is ridiculous. This is not how my conversation with Stephen Graham Jones went.
No, I imagine he was a lot more Professional. I can't even fucking talk, which is not ideal for an audio program.
I'm cutting all of this.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think it's radio gold, but you've got to do what you've got to do.
I have the mic now, and so do you. That's how we do this.
And then you
Lee. I have a whole bit, god damn it. Okay.
Okay.
This is absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
This was a bad idea.
You're the one who started with.
Well, I have a connection, so.
Okay.
Okay. My glass is fogged up and I can't read my notes.
Should have got contact lenses.
I would know. Lee Harvey Oswald, James Ill Ray, John Wilkes Booth, Shane Douglas King, John Wayne Gacy, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Milk David Chapman, Michael David Wilson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Why are you laughing? What's going on?
Oh, God damn it. Yeah, thank you for having me here.
It's like little two stoners in high school. Why can't we do this?
I don't know.
We need Bob. He's the fluffle man.
Blob, what the fuck?
Here comes the fluffle man.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on.
I did not invite you on. You suddenly popped up in my Skype feed and sent me a phone call invite. Did you need to talk to me about something? I just spit coffee on my lap.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought I should take a sip of coffee.
Well,
so to begin with, I'd like to go back a bit, and maybe you could tell me about some early life lessons you learned growing up.
Oh, okay. Well, this is something I can answer pretty comfortably, as I had to do the same on This Is Horror podcast yesterday with Dan Howarth.
Oh, what's that?
It's a podcast that I host, so I thought it was pretty self-gratuitous, really, for me to invite myself on as a guest, but it happened, and we have conversations with various masters of horror. We talk about early life lessons, we talk about writing, and we've had people on such as Stephen Graham Jones and Ramsey Campbell. And we've even had Max Booth III on.
Have you had anyone on like I don't know, like Stephen King, maybe?
I mean, depends what you mean by like Stephen King. We've had Stephen Graham Jones on, and he's got Stephen in his name. We've got Joe Hill on. Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King. Is that like enough for you?
No, I meant like someone who had written the novel The Stand, perhaps. Stephen King. You haven't had him on?
I don't think we've had anyone on who's written a novel called The Stand.
Oh.
I mean, I could Google, see if there's anyone who's written The Stand that wasn't Stephen King.
Have you considered having him on?
It is something that I've wondered about, yeah.
I consider this a free tip.
Okay,
to,
here we go.
Help the podcast. Get Stephen King on.
I'm eager. I'm excited.
Yeah, just get him on. I bet you would get a dozen downloads at least.
Yeah, do you think that many?
I mean, I'm no podcast guru, man. I can't predict the future, but it's a safe bet, I think. At least 11.
Okay.
Which I believe is a dozen in the UK, correct? 11.
No, that's not correct, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
Now I have a question. This
Okay,
is this
go for it.
this is a rumor that someone told me a while back about you.
All right.
Now you've been doing this podcast. How long now?
What, this podcast? I mean, we've been on this call for 12 minutes.
No, the podcast that you host.
Oh, this is horror.
Yes. How long has that been
Okay.
going on?
That's been going on about 7 years, I think.
From what date? Like today? 7 years today?
I don't know, it might be, in fact, because so I think we started it in 2013 in February.
Oh my
So
god.
it could be.
Well, happy anniversary, man.
Thank you very much.
So the rumor I told is the whole reason you got into podcasting is one day someone was like, "Hey, hand me that mic," and you said, "No, my name is Michael."
Yeah.
And they said, "No, no, no, I mean a microphone. Sometimes people call them mics." And you went, "Oh, well, I could do that." And then you began this podcast. If I'm wrong at all, please go ahead and correct me, but that's the rumor that's spreading around the internet.
No, I mean, there's not really anything to correct there. That's exactly how it happened. But to go back to your original question, it's February the 4th, 2013. So
What's
in
today?
2 days, it will be the anniversary. So,
Should we stop and
I
come
mean,
back?
yeah, do you think, yeah, should we pause the conversation and then in 2 days you call me up and then
Yeah, I'm
you
cool
can
with
wish
that.
me, okay,
Bye.
all right, see you then. Bye.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Ghoulish. I recorded this episode 2 days after the last episode you just listened to with Michael David Wilson. We decided to take a pause and rejoin on the 7th anniversary of his podcast, This Is Hull. So we had a nice little break, a nice 2-day break before we recorded again. And then now the episode you're about to listen to is a brand new episode, completely new, refreshed, of myself and Michael David Wilson continuing a discussion about, I don't remember now, bestiality, I think. He has a new book coming out called The Girl on the Videotape. Nope. The Girl on the Video. There's no tape involved in the title, despite my suggestions during the editorial process. So yeah, go buy Michael's novella, The Girl in the Video, and listen to this brand new episode of Ghoulish.
Welcome back to the program, Michael David Wilson. Congratulations on achieving 7 years of hosting a podcast.
Thank you very much. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. And I mean, it was good talking to you for the 10 minutes the other day, but we were a little bit silly. We were laughing a bit, but I've taken 2 days. It is now the anniversary and I'm ready to rock and roll.
How would you say you've changed in the last 2 days as a man, as a human being, as a podcast host?
Oh, I mean, my beard has certainly got a little bit longer. So
Is that
how about
true?
that for a change?
Is that true? It takes 2 days to grow?
Well, it's growing all the time.
Oh my god, it takes like a week to grow, even slightly with me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like a boy.
I think it's growing. I mean, it's probably growing now. It's not
Mine?
going to stop, is it? Yeah.
I don't know, man. Hey, I have a question. How come if I can go months without shaving and still I have sections of my face that remain uncovered? What's up with that?
Um, well, I mean, I think it's just a genetic thing and an age thing. And I would suggest that if you take a photo of yourself and your beard now, which I recommend you do, and then you compare it to your face and your beard in 10 years, that you will find you have more beard coverage.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank,
Nice.
thank you. I think it just took like 85 photos at once. It did one of those things. Well, it does like a spree shoot.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know how I did that, but I missed most of them. I missed them at the top of my mouth, man. It's just my nose and eyes. I fucked that one up pretty good.
Oh, shit. I mean, that's the kind of photo you should probably put on the internet and just share with people.
I recently got banned from the internet, so I cannot.
Oh, okay. Who banned you?
Obama.
Obama. Why would he do that?
You know, man, I don't know. I don't know. Now, I have a few questions I would like to ask you. You host a podcast.
That's correct.
Okay.
Was that the first question?
Yeah, let me cross this one. Let me cross this one off. Okay.
Okay.
Shit. Well, that's all I got.
All right. Well, yeah,
No.
it is true.
Hey, quit fucking around, Michael David Wilson. I have a question. Why did you? Why did you decide to do a podcast?
Well, why did I decide to do the This Is Horror podcast?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, you know that. We've gone over that. We went over that 2 days ago.
You know, man, I'm crazy like that. You don't know what happens in 2 days. I have no memory of what happened 2 minutes ago. My mind is like a scrambled egg, man. Now, this podcast, it's kind of a strange name. How did you come up with that?
Well, I mean, I wanted to do a podcast that focused on the horror genre, but I also wanted to show just how widely encompassing the horror genre is. So the idea is I'm saying this is horror, but this is also horror, and this is horror too. And whilst I considered calling it This Is Also Horror, and indeed the sequel, This Is Horror 2, I went for just This Is Horror.
Have you considered branching out into different genres? Like you could do a romance podcast.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to start a podcast called This Is Romance, but I think
Why?
well, I mean, I can get to that. Do you want me to answer why, or do you want me to continue answering the original question?
I mean, if you could combine both of them into the same response, that would be great. We don't have much time, so yeah, no pressure.
Okay, well, with This Is Horror, we're showing how widely encompassing the horror genre is, and so there are other genres within that. So we do talk to people within other genres such as crime, so Joe R. Lansdale being a prime example. And as to whether we would chat with someone who mixes romance and horror, I mean, I think in many ways Charlene Harris has done that, and we've spoken to her. So some could say that whilst we are officially This Is Horror podcast, we are also This Is Romance podcast. We are This Is Western podcast. We are This Is Science Fiction podcast.
What makes you an authority figure about this genre? What gave you the ego to begin a to begin a podcast like this?
Well, I mean, fucking hell. I don't know how to respond to that, but I mean, I started the podcast and indeed the website because there was a gap in the market. There wasn't a lot of places covering horror fiction. I mean, in terms of websites, there were places like Bloody Disgusting that were covering horror movies, and there was certainly a demand for it. And in terms of podcasting, there was Booked, there was The Geek's Guide to the Galaxy, and there was Horror Etc., all who were doing great work, but nobody was covering horror fiction in the depth that we wanted to do it, and they weren't having these long form conversations. And if there's a gap in the market and it's something I'm interested in, then I'm gonna fill it. And it kind of sounds like you just walked off while I was talking.
Hey, Michael, I'm gonna need you to hold on a second. I gotta go take a little something. Give me 2 seconds. No! Get back in the fucking closet. What did I say? In the daytime, when it's daytime, when the sun is out, you stay in the closet. You know what will happen to your flesh. You know what will happen to your skin. What happened last time? You complained. How fucking long? Get back in the closet. I'm doing a podcast. No, it's muted. He doesn't know. When I'm done with this, I'm going to come into the closet, we will hang out, we will watch 6 Feet Under. That's what you want to watch. That's all you fucking watch. We will make breakfast. Get back in the fucking closet. I love you. So, following up.
As you were saying?
Yeah. How did you, you interview people, I interview people as well. How did you show up in your interview skills?
Well, I mean, I think practice and interviewing more and more people, studying the art of the interview, like listening to other great conversationalists like Tim Ferriss and Scroobius Pip and
Did you
Mark
just make
Maron.
up that name?
No, I didn't.
Scroobius what?
Scroobius Pip.
What is he, rap?
P-I-P. What did you say?
Does he rap? What does he do?
He does rap, yeah. He's,
I am not surprised.
Well,
I like how you spelled Pip, but you didn't acknowledge his first name, which seems even more baffling.
Scroobius.
That's not a real name.
Scroobius.
How come you, let me ask you a question.
Okay, let's do it.
You know how, like, those who rap, they come up with cool names, like Scroobius and 50 Cent, and help me out. Name some.
I mean, is 50 Cent that cool a name?
Yeah, man.
Isn't that just a small amount of money?
No, not in the States. That's the most money you could have.
Okay.
So there's 50 Cent, there's Scroobius, there's
You've got Eminem, which
Moby.
sounds like some confectionery. I'm not sure that Moby is a rapper.
Yeah, but
Did you even say Moby?
You have Bon Jovi. All these guys who rap.
Not a rapper?
I mean, that's a matter of opinion. So,
not really.
How come writers like us, how come we don't take cool names?
I mean, do you not think that Michael David Wilson is a cool name?
Well, I think you should just.
I've got three names. At least one of them has to be a little bit cool.
I feel like you should pick one and just stick with it. You seem kind of indecisive with all those names.
I think Wilson. Then I mean, it's not that indecisive. We've got Wilson the writer on Twitter. There you go.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's quite confusing when I try to tag you in things, and I type in Michael, and nothing happens.
Nothing happens. I mean, I think probably other Michaels will turn up.
That's the thing. You would think so, but nobody else with that name is around on that website.
Ah. Okay.
So who is the most scandalous guest you've had on the podcast?
I mean, well, we had one guest, and I don't really want to name who they were, or who they still are, in fact, but they were so nervous that they drank quite a lot, and then they needed the toilet halfway through, and instead of just saying, okay, I'm gonna go to the toilet, can we take a 5-minute break, they got up, they were carrying their laptop, and they just took a piss out into the garden on air.
I had that same thing happen on Ghoulish. Trust me, Ellen Datlow is a fucking maniac.
Yeah.
She drinks quite a bit. It's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Rightio then.
Do you agree?
I mean, that hasn't been my experience with Ellen, but we haven't gone out drinking together, so
Okay, that makes sense. Would you go drinking with Ellen Datlow if you
yeah,
could? Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Would
good.
you?
No.
You know your answer or no?
I mean, who's to say?
You?
Oh, let me ask you a question, Michael.
Go on then. I mean, every time you want to ask me a question, you don't have to preface it with "Let me ask you a question."
Is that
you can just go ahead and do it.
Is that an interview tip you've just given me?
Yeah. That's one thing I do.
Could you give me some additional tips?
I would say to research the guest and probably don't invite them on under false pretenses. So don't say, "Oh, I've got a podcast called Ghoulish. It's about your book, Ghoulish, and would you like to come on?" And then you haven't even read the fucking thing.
Now I was gonna bring this up. Let me ask you
Okay.
a question. You've read a book, but it's not called Ghoul. So I
No.
don't know. That was an odd thing for you to say, to claim that maybe you did read a book called Ghoul. We all know what the title of the book you wrote is called. So would you like to tell me?
The title of the book that I wrote is The Girl in the Video.
Hold on. How do you spell that?
You want me to spell every single word for you? Or are you just clarifying that girl is not ghoul? So girl is GIRL.
Wait. Begin at the beginning.
All right. So the first word is the,
Yes.
THE.
Okay.
Second word, girl, GIRL.
Wait, is that the UK or the US spelling?
That is the UK spelling.
Ah, I got you.
And then in, which is IN,
Uh-huh.
the, which is the same as the first word, but for clarity, THE.
Got it.
And then finally, video, which is VIDEO.
Okay. Now, what is the difference between a video and a movie, or a DVD, a VHS, and a cassette?
I think you know the answer to that, and I can't believe that this is a question that we're gonna answer, and we're wasting the listeners' time with this. But
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
okay,
so
I mean you've asked me several. I'll let you answer.
That's so funny. So I read this book a while back, and
Okay.
the title has the word video in it. Now, to me, the way I was raised in the good old United States of America, a video is a physical contraption. It's a videotape, right? But in the book, there's no real videotape involved. It's mostly what do you call it? What's a video file? MP4. Yeah, so it's mostly like video sent via cell phone, and Vilius has little apps that you invented for this book. So I don't know, man. Why didn't you call it like why the word video and why not like clip?
Well, I mean, video means the recording, reproducing, or broadcasting of moving visual images, and that's exactly what you've got. Also, if I called it the girl in the MP4 file, in years to come, that might be a little bit dated, and people will think, MP what? But if I call it video, I think that word is going to stand the test of time.
Oh, that's a mighty big gamble you're taking. But you know what? I admire how bold you've gotten recently. And yeah, what else can we talk about with this book? I mean, you wrote it. It's being published. It's about what is it about? Hello Kitty? I'm looking at my notes now. So Hello. It takes place in Japan. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, Japan. Why would you set a book in Japan?
Well, I mean, I've lived in Japan for. Sorry, I've just seen the photo that you sent me with your notes. Oh God. Anyway, so yeah, I've lived in Japan for a number of years, and I mean it's a place that I've got a deep connection to, and I thought setting a story in Japan where the person living in Japan is an expat and it's very disorientating for him would be a good thing to do for a horror story. And if people want a more complete answer, you should probably listen to any conversation I've had on other podcasts.
What do you mean?
I mean, this isn't the only podcast that I've done, and I might have gone into a little bit more depth in
So,
other interviews.
wait a minute. So why?
I think
why,
they've taken me
hold
a little
on.
bit more seriously.
Why would you come on and plug a different podcast? This is my podcast. Why
Well,
why
I
wouldn't
haven't
you
made
give me an in-depth answer? Why would you save that for someone else?
Well, the thing is that everyone else, when I've been answering a question, hasn't sent me an image that says Lee Harvey Oswald, James L. Ray, and it's even got Jennifer Love Hewitt. And what it's difficult to answer when presented with such material. I mean, do you often send unsolicited images to your guest?
Now, what I find interesting is
No.
you
Okay.
you called that an image, but you did not call it a video.
Well, it isn't a video, is it?
Busted! I got you.
Wait, is it a video? I'm clicking, but it's not playing.
No.
When I click, it just goes, it magnifies it.
Let me ask you a question.
Go on then.
Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Isn't an image just a video that's been paused?
No, it isn't.
Enough joking around, Michael. I want to get serious for a second.
Okay.
You wrote this book.
I think I can manage a second.
You wrote this book. It's a novella. You sent it to me. I read it. I said, yes, this is good.
Yep.
And then I accepted it. And now I am publishing it through my own press, Perpetual Motion Machine. Do you think I am doing a good job of promoting it on this podcast so far?
Oh, well, I mean, I think you're doing a good job of promoting it thus far on this podcast.
Specifically on this podcast.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you've mentioned it, so that's a good start.
What was it again?
The girl in the video.
Tape.
No, just the girl in the video.
Oh. Well, that brings me to a new question. How come it isn't videotape?
Because as you alluded to earlier, I mean, the videos in the girl in the video are not videotapes. They're predominantly MP4 files, even though we don't specify that it's MP4, but I think it's hinted at.
Now, the plot of this novella has to do with someone who lives in Japan. He teaches, much like you.
Yeah.
And then one day...
Well, we don't say if he looks like me. That's not...
You misunderstood. I said he teaches, much like you.
Oh, okay. I
Yes.
thought you said he looks like me.
I mean, I don't know what he looks like. He could look like you.
Right.
Does he?
Will you tell me?
You didn't describe his physical appearance, did you?
Not much. not in too much detail.
I do recall a scene where you specified that it takes 2 days for his facial hair to grow. So, yikes!
I'm not sure that happened.
I may have added it in after
Okay.
you proofed it. Yeah. So he teaches in
I mean, that's
Japan.
standard.
He teaches in Japan, and one day he begins getting these cryptic videos sent to him from a Hello Kitty profile. Am I correct so far?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And things kind of spiral into absolute chaos, I would say. Now, how much of this is based on your real life?
Well, I mean, there are a number of locations and commonalities in terms of places that I have been, but I mean, there wasn't a girl who sent me a video, so that bit is fiction.
Oh.
Is that going to be a problem with the with publishing it.
Well, how did you come up with such a outrageous idea then if it's not true?
I mean, that's the question that I keep asking myself, and I've yet to land on an answer. But if anyone knows, then tweet me at Wilson the Writer.
Now, you host a podcast.
I do, in fact, yeah. And something
You,
we haven't spoken about in this
is,
conversation. So, I mean, it's refreshing that we've got onto that.
stay with me. I'm making a point.
I will.
You host this podcast, and
This podcast. I don't host this podcast.
guess again, baby. Look at that contract. Now, the whole reason I
shit.
began doing Ghoulish is because I would beg you to let me be the new co-host of your podcast, and you would say no. So I thought, okay, I'll do my own podcast then, and I'll show you guys, and that's what I did. What do you have to say?
Yeah.
What do you have to say for yourself now, Michael David Wilson?
Do you feel that you've shown me? I mean, if you look at Ghoulish, do you think you've achieved what you set out to?
I mean, I've sent you an image. I've sent you a pause video.
Jesus Christ, what have you sent me?
Oh, just the same. I'm talking about the same one I sent you last time.
Oh, okay. It's just because I heard something on your end, and
Yeah, I forgot to mute my phone again after I did the photo capturing noise for the microphone.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. So now, let me ask you a question. You've been
Sure.
interviewing all these great, majestic figures of the whole genre for 7 years today.
Yeah.
How many bits and pieces of like wisdom that they've dished out over the years have you absorbed and taken in to write fiction of your own?
So how many? So you want me to quantify it?
That is a ridiculous response. I think you know what I meant.
Honestly, Max, with you, I don't always know what you mean.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's difficult to discern what question you're actually asking, and are you asking a serious question? Are you making a joke? Are you just gonna start referencing serial killers with 3 names? Is it Jennifer Love Hewitt? You know,
She
what's
killed
going on?
so many babies. Now, let me ask you a question. What's the end game with this podcast that you host? What do you foresee happening? Like, do you want a movie deal? What?
Well, I mean, I'd like to get 1,000 patrons, and we're at 200 at the moment, so there's 800 more patrons to go.
How can folks find that Patreon?
Well, they can go to www.patreon.com/thisishorror.
If you could go back and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him about Patreon?
I mean, that would be difficult, I guess. I'd tell him that. I mean, like, I think he'd wonder why the fuck this old bald guy is going up to him and talking about Patreon, but nonetheless, I'd tell him that it's a way that people can support art that you're doing, and that I would also tell him that I am him in the future, and
would that come second?
Yeah, I mean, what? Probably.
Well, think of it.
I don't even know if I'm answering this, because if I spoke to my 18-year-old self, I'm not going to talk to him about Patreon. I've fallen into your trap. Why would I start talking about Patreon to him? I mean, there'd be no real reference point. People can give money, people can support the art, so he'd understand that. It's on the internet, he'd understand that. I don't know if he'd know what a podcast is, but I could say it's an internet radio show. But why have I traveled back, spoken to my 18-year-old self, and I'm talking about Patreon? I mean, he'd probably just nod along. He'd probably be wasted anyway. Might not even remember the conversation.
Imagine the having the time before Patreon is invented, to plan ahead, to come up with the greatest way to launch a good Patreon account. I mean, you could launch on day one, man. Get ahead of all these goddamn whack jobs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pretty inspiring thing to imagine, really.
So we know what happens when you do get, what is it, 1,000 patrons you're trying to get?
Well,
Was that the goal? Was it 200? What was it?
well, 1,000
Okay.
patrons is a goal that I think we can
Okay, 1,000.
achieve.
So how many do you have now?
Well, we have 200.
Oh God.
Yeah.
When do you have to achieve this goal?
Well, there's no time limit on it, which is quite fortunate.
Oh, that's good. So what happens when you do hit 1,000? Does something like dramatic happen to the universe, or what?
Well, I mean, in terms of, oh, okay, yeah. So in terms of that that goal, I mean, we have currently set goals for $800 and $900, and at 800 we release 6 episodes per month, and at 900 we release 2 episodes per week. So we're going to achieve those before we get 1,000 patrons. So I don't like to unveil the milestones and the goals too far in advance. So, you can imagine, wow, what could it be when they hit 1,000 patrons? And in due course, we will let you know exactly what we're going to do. But is it going to involve Bob? Yes, obviously. So that's an exclusive.
Well, that all sounds pretty good, man. I mean, you only have 200 at the moment. So, I mean, I'm no mathematician, but that's not even close to 1,000.
No.
What can my listeners do?
20% of the way there.
Shut up.
Okay, fair enough.
What can my listeners do to help you reach that goal?
Well, they could become a patron at www.patreon.com/thisishorror. Do you want to know what they get?
Yeah, you should tell me.
Oh, okay. Well, they will get early bird access to every episode. They will get Story Unboxed, a horror podcast on the craft of writing. They'll get the patrons only Q&A sessions with myself and Bob Pastorella. They would be able to submit questions to each and every interviewee. And at $10, they would get the video cast on camera, off record.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Go on.
Video cast.
Yeah. Oh,
Isn't
God.
isn't that just like an image that's been expanded into many images?
Well, I mean, I know earlier we spoke about a video, and I said it is the recording, reproducing, or broadcasting of moving visual images, and it's still the same, even though we've been speaking for, I guess, 30 minutes longer than that, although probably in the edit about 10 minutes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you're probably going to edit some things out.
Is that something I should do?
I mean, it's at your discretion, really. For me, this has all been gold. This has been radio gold, I think. I've enjoyed myself. You've enjoyed yourself, and
Let me ask you a question, Michael. How can folks find you online?
well, they can go to my website, www.michaeldavidwilson.co.uk. They can follow me on Twitter, as I've said before, at Wilson the Writer, or they can go to thisishorror.co.uk and follow This Is Horror on Twitter, at This Is Horror.
What do you have against .com?
I don't have anything against it. If you go to thisishorror.com or michaeldavidwilson.com, you will also get to my website.
Now, don't you think it's kind of hypocritical to have .uk when you live in Japan?
No, I don't. I mean, right now, I'm in the UK, even though when this goes live, I will be in Japan, but
Do you plan on changing your website names when you move?
no.
Yikes. Okay, well,
Wow. Big
wow.
move for me, but yeah, I mean,
Excuse me, I didn't realize your balls were made of brass.
we've established not about my balls, but we've established a reputation with us as horror.co.uk. So I think it would be a mistake for me to rebrand to .co.jp. And if I do that, I mean, what happens when I'm visiting the UK? Do I have to, migrate back to .co.uk? What if I visit America? Does it then have to be .com? Where does it end? Like, seriously, where does it end?
Michael, I think this has been a good practice run. Do you want to go ahead and begin the podcast now?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I guess
Welcome to Ghoulish.
That's not how you say it.
I'm Michael David. Well, it's how I say it.
Say it creepy. Say it like...
Welcome to Ghoulish.
No, wait. I'll help you out. Say it like you died 2,000 years ago, and now you're a demon in hell, but you have a big pot belly, you've kind of gone bald, and you maybe might be a sex fiend.
I think if that were the case, you wouldn't make sounds that anyone would understand. I don't think it's possible to say it in quite that way.
It's like this.
Okay.
Welcome to Ghoulish.
Was that Bob? Bob? Did Bob just enter the call?
Oh, hey, Bob. Hello. So, I have no other questions. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, so who's your next guest on Ghoulish?
That's a good question, Michael. Let me ask you a question.
Okay, I thought you had no more.
I have a follow-up question to that question. Who would you recommend that I get on the show?
That's a good question, actually.
Thank you. All of my questions are quite good if you think about them.
Yeah, sometimes you have to think for quite a long time. But
I sent you my notes. You saw the questions I have.
Yeah, I did see the notes that you sent me. I mean, I think you could get Dan Howarth on the show. It would be interesting to see how he deals with your brand of questions.
What would I ask him about?
You could get, well, I mean, that's for you to decide as the show's host.
Okay.
You could also get Luke Condor on. He's from Hawk and Cleaver, who do the Other Stories podcast.
Yeah.
I think that would be quite interesting. You could get Jeremy Robert Johnson on.
I plan on getting him on when his book comes out.
Well, I mean, he's got other books out, so.
Well, I know he has more than just one book, Michael, but I haven't read those.
Why not?
I mean, I have. That was a lie, but I mean, why not get him on when the new book comes out? That's how podcasts roll, right?
I don't know. I mean, why not seize the opportunity? What if you're not alive when the next book comes out? What if he's not alive?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
John Wilkes Booth. Michael David Wilson. Jeremy Robert Johnson. Interesting, wouldn't you say?
I mean, you're very good at reading names with 3 names in them. I don't know if I'd say it was interesting.
Don't you find that kind of a coincidence?
A coincidence? Well, how? I mean, let's unpack this a little bit.
I would love to, but I'm afraid we have run out of time.
Oh, well.
So we'll
have to do this again.
No, we won't. Once again.
Okay.
What is the title of this new novella that you wrote and I published?
It is The Girl in the Video.
And how can people buy it?
They can buy it at the Perpetual Motion Machine publishing store. And all places good books are sold.
Can you say that again, but like as a telephone seductive sex vocal?
No, I can't say it like that.
Well, I have nothing else to say to you then.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Fuck off. See ya.
If you liked today's episode, hey, why don't you go support us on Patreon at patreon.com/PMM Publishing and rate and review Ghoulish on iTunes and any other place you can rate and review us. I have a new book coming out called Touch the Night. You can pre-order that at cemeterydance.com. Through my small press, I am publishing a new book later this month. Michael David Wilson's The Girl in the Video. Go to perpetualpublishing.com and get that book. Get it now. And what else? What do I usually say? Live spooky, die spooky, wash your hands, do not cough in anyone's mouth unless they give you consent. Yeah. Alright. Bye.
Yeah.